They call many, but few are summoned to the table where history tilts. Leaders endorse candidates, kings fund campaigns, voices rally support. But this is not endorsement. This is not about applause or banners. This is an invitation, a door not opened by politics, but by providence. Imagine hearing it. Not the echo of a crowd, not the hum of pundits, but the unmistakable summons that pierces deeper than headlines. A voice, charged with authority, leaning into your spirit. Step forward. This is not about being a voter in the stands, nor even a supporter in the chorus. This is about being drawn into the arena itself, where the air is heavy, where destinies collide, where choices echo beyond generations. You are not being asked to observe. You are being invited to play, to shape, to alter the very course that others will study and call the turning point. This kind of moment cannot be manufactured. It cannot be staged. It arrives like lightning, sudden, disruptive, undeniable. It rattles assumptions and interrupts the script everyone thought was set. It is not strategy. It is summons, not man's idea, but heaven's orchestration. Open book, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. Proverbs 18, verse 16. Picture it. The room is quiet. Curtains drawn, cameras off. The hum of chatter reduced to silence. Advisors glance at one another, uncertain, weighing risks with furrowed brows. Yet in the midst of hesitation, one hand extends across the table, not to shake yours as a formality, not to congratulate you as a guest, but to summon you. The invitation is not to watch but to stand, not to analyze from afar, but to enter the current itself. You see the weight of years in the eyes across from you, victories, defeats, scars carved by battles few could ever imagine. Yet beyond those eyes is something greater, expectancy, a search, as though even the mightiest of figures can recognize when a story requires a new voice. Step in. The unspoken words carry. They are more than advice. They are command cloaked in opportunity. And in that moment, you realize this was never about politics alone. It is about destiny bending, a pivot in the narrative of nations. The atmosphere thickens. You feel the pull of history, as though invisible witnesses line the walls. Ancient echoes resound. Voices of prophets, reformers, leaders who stood in their day when the cost was high and the reward uncertain. The air itself testifies. This is not coincidence. This is orchestration. Outside, the world scrolls on, news feeds buzzing, crowds distracted, headlines spinning. But here, in this private moment, the script of tomorrow is shifting. The torch is not merely being passed. It is being thrust into your hands. And with it, fire. You are not summoned to endorse what already exists. You are called to ignite what has not yet been seen. To step into the arena is to embrace tension, to bear weight, to speak when silence feels safer. Yet this is the invitation, and it comes not with applause, but with the gravity of heaven's timing. The vision forms, not just podiums or crowds, but ripples into future decades. Decisions shaping generations not yet born. A movement not of slogans, but of alignment. Earth bending to match heaven's decree. The hand still reaches across the table. The question lingers. Will you take it? There comes a moment when the lines between earthly strategy and heavenly decree dissolve. Men gather in war rooms, drafting maps, weighing polls, calculating influence. But beyond every chart and every council stand the hand that opens doors no man can shut. Open book, this is what the Lord says to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I take hold of to subdue nations before him and to strip kings of their armor, to open doors before him so that gates will not be shut. Isaiah 45, verse 1. Isaiah's words remind us, heaven anoints, and when heaven anoints, thrones tremble. The prophet did not speak of mere ritual or title. He spoke of positioning. A pagan king was called anointed because the assignment demanded it. Gates were unbarred. Armies yielded. History bent. Not because Cyrus campaigned for it, but because the Lord decreed it. And so, in this hour, when a political titan extends an invitation, you must see beyond the human gesture. This is not merely the strategy of a man or the council of advisors. This is confirmation, a whisper from eternity disguised as an earthly summons. Heaven places people where heaven wills. Why does politics bow? Because kingdoms rise and fall at the breath of the Almighty. Because every policy, every party, every platform is dust of heaven has not willed its season. Yet when heaven is chosen, even rulers who think they command the future find themselves instruments of a larger score. This is not flattery. It is not chance. It is alignment. The weight you feel is the echo of Isaiah's vision. Doors that cannot stay closed, corridors of influence that no opposition can barricade. It is the shock of realizing that what others perceive as strategy, heaven calls destiny. And here's the mystery. You are not waiting on permission from earthly structures. The invitation handed to you is evidence that the placement is already decreed. Politics bends, not because it desires to, but because heaven's assignment makes room for it. Just as a man's gift ushers him before great men, so heaven's decree ushers you into halls where history is written. So stand, not in hesitation, but in recognition. This is not man's idea. This is the orchestration of one who calls kings as servants and uses nations as tools in his hand. When doors swing wide, do not ask, "Am I worthy?" Ask only, "Am I willing?" Because the gates are already open. You felt it long before this invitation ever arrived. The sensation that the world was already echoing your voice, though you had not yet stepped onto its stage. Headlines rising that carried fragments of your own convictions. Words you once whispered in private suddenly shouted on platforms by strangers. Policies debated in public that mirrored thoughts you carried in secret. It was as if your inner language had leaked into the atmosphere, carried by winds beyond your control. And then there were the figures. Unexpected, often random. Speaking your phrases, quoting your ideas as if they had stumbled upon them by chance. Yet you knew better. These weren't accidents. They were alignments. The language of destiny often shows itself first in echoes, testing if you can hear your own reflection before the world hears your roar. The weight of it pressed deeper in quiet moments, walking past screens in airports, seeing captions that mirrored your own inner vocabulary, sitting with friends, hearing conversations circle back to visions you had buried in notebooks, even dreams, vivid, unshakable, of podiums, of crowded rooms, of moments where silence breaks under the force of your voice. These were not random. They were rehearsals. They were whispers of heaven saying, "Look, the ground is already tilled. Step into it." Your emotions betrayed you. Some days the pull was intoxicating, a thrill, as though the universe itself were conspiring to set you up. Other days it was terrifying, the weight of a mantle you didn't ask for pressing on your chest. You try to dismiss it as coincidence, as imagination. But coincidences do not stack this neatly. They do not form a pattern so consistent that even skeptics begin to notice. And now, with the invitation placed before you, those scattered fragments converge. Every headline, every echo, every mention, every dream was not background noise. It was the overture before the curtain lifted. It was preparation. The emotional current cannot be denied, a strange mixture of fear and fire. Fear, because the step means exposure, responsibility, the gaze of a world that will measure every word you speak. Fire, because deep within you burns a knowing this is what you were fashioned for. You felt it, and now you see it. The signs have gathered, the invitation has landed, and the stage is no longer a possibility. It is a certainty. The question is not whether you were called. The question is whether you will accept the weight that has been circling your life all along. This summons is not about party lines or platforms. It is not about the color of banners or the slogans that come and go with each cycle. It is about timing. Heaven does not raise voices randomly. It raises them at the hinge moments of history, when nations tilt and destinies are contested. You are being called because the hour requires a voice that carries more than opinion. It requires conviction forged in silence. Truths you did not rehearse for applause but carried in secret until the appointed moment. The invitation is not flattery. It is assignment, a mantle being lowered onto your shoulders. Prophets of old were not summoned for comfort. They were summoned for collision. They spoke to kings who did not want to hear them, to nations that resisted them, to generations that mocked them, yet their words outlived the empires that dismissed them. So, too, this moment is not about convenience. It is about alignment. Heaven raises voices to shift nations. Some are called to business, others to the pulpit, others to families. But when heaven calls one into the arena of nations, it is because the landscape itself must be altered. Policies are not the end. They are the fruit of a deeper root. Voices bold enough to declare what heaven is saying in the hour when silence will be safer. Do not mistake the invitation for an honorarium. It is not recognition of what you have done. It is a summon for what you must do. Assignment always precedes affirmation. And this assignment is weighty because its timing is urgent. The mission is clear. Not to echo what has already been said, but to carry what has been hidden. To stand in the gap between what is and what must be. To embody a voice that calls a generation upward, beyond cynicism, beyond apathy, into destiny. This is why you are called. Because the stage of nations is trembling, and heaven is searching for one who will not flinch when the light is hottest. Chosen one, timing is everything. History does not shift on endless calendars. It pivots in windows. Brief, fragile openings where what seemed immovable can suddenly be overturned, and what seemed impossible can suddenly be birthed. This invitation did not arrive late. It did not come too soon. It came in the exact moment heaven ordained, the now. To hesitate is to forfeit. To pause is to watch the windows swing shut, the moment vanish, and the tide roll on without you. You must understand, invitations are also signals. They do not simply ask, they announce. They tell you that alignment has reached its peak, that the season is ripened, that the door is wide, but not forever. For every open gate is also a closing one. Look around. The pace of nations is accelerating. What took decades is now happening in months. What was stable yesterday shakes today. What was unthinkable in one season becomes inevitable in the next. These are not random tremors. They are the sound of the window opening. And the invitation is proof. Proof that heaven has synchronized Earth's stage with your assignment. Proof that delay is no longer neutral. For in this kind of hour, waiting does not keep you safe. It keeps you absent. Do not misread the timing. This is not politics as usual. This is a sign. The signal is clear. The door is open now. And to stand back is to watch another step in where you were meant to stand. The call is urgent, not because man demands it, but because heaven has decreed it. Step in while the window is open. You once believed this realm was far from you. Politics, platforms, podiums. They seem worlds away, reserved for others with louder voices, larger names, longer histories. You saw yourself as an observer, perhaps a commentator, maybe even a supporter, but never the one called to stand in the center of the arena. Yet look closer. Your life has been whispering this identity all along. The language you thought was private has surfaced in public debates. The convictions you carried quietly have been mirrored in policy shifts. Words you spoke in small circles have found their way into national conversations. Without campaigning, without strategizing, your influence has already leaked beyond your walls. You thought you were far, but the truth is, you were already shaping the atmosphere, already bending narratives, already seeding ideas into places you never stepped. And when leaders call your name, It is not intrusion. It is recognition. It is the world finally catching up to what heaven already decreed. This is the reframe. You are not breaking into a foreign field. You are arriving where you were always meant to stand. Like Joseph, carried from prison into the palace because his gift was already known. Like Esther, elevated not because she forced her way in, but because timing pulled her forward. Like David, anointed in obscurity, yet summoned when the battlefield demanded his courage. Every doubt you've carried, every hesitation that whispered this isn't for you, is now silenced by the evidence of your own story. The patterns have already proven your belonging. The signs have already confirmed your place. What you mistook for coincidence was actually confirmation. You are not intruding. You are fulfilling. You are not an outsider being tolerated. You are a voice being revealed. This is who you are, and this is where you belong. Look back and trace the trail. The evidence has been there, scattered like breadcrumbs leading you here. Mentions of your name in circles you've never stepped into. Leaders referencing you in conversations you didn't attend. Invitations arriving out of nowhere. A panel, a forum, a stage you didn't chase but somehow found you. And then the dreams. Vivid, undeniable. You saw podiums before you ever touched a microphone. You saw crowds before you ever entered their space. You felt a strange mixture of awe and fear that accompanies revelation. Not fantasy, but foresight. Dreams are often heaven's previews, trailers of a story yet to unfold. Pay attention to how many times strangers have echoed your language. How often you've heard phrases that originated in your private notes, suddenly spoken on broadcasts or in headlines. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations, signs that your assignment is already reverberating through channels you haven't touched. Even the resistance has been a sign. Closed doors that irritated you, seasons of silence that made you question yourself. They were not rejection. They were preservation. Waiting rooms disguised as disappointments. Because the platform wasn't ready then, but now it is. There comes a moment when reflection must become response. You have heard the summons, seen the signs, felt the weight. Now the question is not whether the call is real. It is whether you will say yes. Every covenant in history has required a response. Noah built an ark. Abraham stepped out from his homeland. Moses lifted his staff. Esther entered the throne room. None of them could stay silent once the invitation was clear. Each action became proof that they accepted the assignment heaven laid before them. So now it comes to you. This is your altar moment, not one of hesitation, but of declaration. A moment to mark yourself as one who will no longer spectate, but step forward. To say aloud, I accept heaven's platform. I embrace the assignment placed on my life. I will not shrink back when the doors open. This is more than words. It is covenant. It is a seal between your spirit and your destiny. And covenant requires expression. Maybe it is spoken aloud in your room. Maybe it is written down in your journal with today's date circled. Maybe it is shared boldly with a friend or mentor who will hold you to it. Whatever the form, let it be tangible. Do not underestimate the power of a simple act. Small seeds carry entire forests within them. One declaration, one marked moment of yes, can ripple into decades of alignment. Heaven does not look for eloquence. It looks for willingness. If your heart says yes, do not delay. Mark it now. Seal it now. Declare it now. Let your action be the proof that you accept the platform heaven gives. A platform is not built in a day. It is sustained by a life. The call you carry cannot rest only on inspiration. It must be guarded by discipline. What you step into will not only amplify your voice, it will also magnify your flaws. That is why the way you live now matters as much as the invitation itself. Wake each morning with a declaration. I am not a spectator. I am a shaper. Speak it until your heart believes it. Your words set the rhythm of your day, and the rhythm of your days creates the pattern of your future. Guard your time. The careless waste it, the called steward it. Do not let distractions eat away at your hours. Live with intention. Even in hidden seasons, train as though the spotlight is already burning down on you. Because when the stage comes, you will not have time to prepare. You will only have time to reveal what you have already built. Refine your message. Your voice carries power, but power without clarity breeds confusion. Write, study, wrestle with truth until it flows from you with precision. Do not be content with borrowed phrases or shallow slogans. Let your words carry the weight of depth, forged in silence, tested in prayer, refined in fire. Guard your integrity. Nothing sabotages a platform faster than compromise. Live cleanly. Keep your heart pure. Handle finances with honor, relationships with respect, promises with faithfulness. A platform does not create character. It exposes it. Let your foundation be solid, so when the winds rise, you do not fall. Surround yourself with truth-tellers, not flatterers. Those who will correct you when you veer, anchor you when you drift, remind you of your mission when the noise grows loud. Isolation breeds distortion. Community preserves clarity. Finally, embrace discipline as worship. Every choice, what you eat, what you read, what you allow before your eyes, is part of your preparation. A life of consistency is the greatest offering you can give to the one who entrusted you with this call. The invitation has been given. The question now is, will you live in a way that sustains it? Every journey of calling must end where it began. Not in the hands of men, but in the presence of God. The invitation has been spoken, the signs revealed, the mission laid bare. Yet only heaven can seal what heaven initiates. So we turn now, not to strategies or slogans, but to prayer. Prayer, Lord, I thank you that even doors in the halls of power bend to your will. I thank you that no earthly gatekeeper holds a final say, for it is you who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens. I thank you for the life of the one reading these words, for every seed you planted in hidden years, for every gift you nurtured in silence, for every word of destiny whispered into their spirit. I thank you that what once seemed distant has now come near, that you have confirmed their assignment not by chance, but by orchestration. I ask, Father, that you give them courage. Courage to step into what they have long felt but often doubted. Courage to walk through doors even when fear shouts louder than faith. Courage to stand as your representative in arenas where compromise reigns, knowing that grace is sufficient to sustain them. Let integrity be their armor. Let wisdom be their compass. Let humility be their crown. Protect them from distraction, from pride, from voices that would distort the clarity of your summons. Surround them with truth-tellers and intercessors who will hold their arms high when the battle grows heavy. And above all, Lord, let their entry into this new season be marked not by ambition, but by obedience, not by the applause of men, but by the confirmation of heaven. May they rise only into what you ordain, and may every step echo with your timing. Let every invitation become confirmation and never distraction. Seal their assignment with your spirit. Amen.